right. Sounds right. Sounds right. Sounds right.
Welcome. Oh, did it again with the microphones. Welcome. What the heck? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Devontae Colonel, and welcome to another episode of the Inspired Challenge podcast. On this episode, I'm excited to get back in it. Yesterday was day one, part one of our story on navigating from dating apps to marriage. And as you can see, I've got my lovely wife here joining us today. So we're excited to have her on. She gives her side of the story. You guys have heard me on talking about this with various guests, but now you get to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, her experience with it and her response to some of the things that I got onto in our dating process. It's an expression, Shally, straight from the horse's mouth.
Happy to be here.
So as we prepare to get into this, I want to set up for you guys what to expect exactly. So on this episode, we're going to be covering everything from the second date to the third date to the way that things increased in our relationship, at what point I decided that I wanted to make her my girlfriend, what her response to was to that, and then how we escalated and actually became in the relationship. Then we're going to cover how different elements that each of us had in our past were creeping their way in, some of the struggles and the difficulties that we had and how we navigated those things and eventually led it into marriage. So before we do jump into the second date, Shally actually had a number of items she wanted to ask me about. So I'm going to give the floor to my lovely wife. And Shally, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, so Devonta asked me to have like some questions, and there was a question that came from our first date. And since we already covered most of it in the previous episode, so I wanted to start with this question. So Devonta, what are your thoughts on talking about an ex in the first date, which is something that you did when you were sharing your story in our first date?
So my thoughts on talking about an ex are going to be extremely different from most people's. I just want to acknowledge that right now. Most people would probably call it crazy to bring up past relationships on the first date, whether from the secular world or from the Christian world. So I acknowledge that. The reason that I brought it up is because there was so much that that person at that time was based off of the response that I had, that I wanted to make any person fully aware of what I was recently dealing with, so that way they could navigate with both eyes wide open. And so my thought about it is, a good majority of the time, a person that brings up their ex on a first date is probably going to be someone who is still leaning towards that ex. It's just statistically factual that a person who has been in a long-term relationship who brings up that ex probably still has some amount of feeling about it, and it's unresolved issues. You see it all the time. There are guys and women that go back to the ex during their dating phase, and they're in this like on again, off again situation. And I was well aware of that because I just understood the dating culture. And so even with that in mind, I took the chance because it was for each individual girl to decide if knowing about what my past looks like in its honestness, if you want to deal with that, that's totally your call, but I wanted to give that to you. So for a general person,
And before you continue, just for context, what was the time frame between the breakup and our date?
so that's a good question. So the time frame between the breakup and our date was roughly almost exactly a year. It was right in about a year time span. So a year is, some people know, like depending on the nature of the breakup, a year can be plenty of enough. And then for some people, a year is like, man, that thing is still fresh. So, looking at how, 5+ years in a relationship, 1 year to recover, you guys do the math on that. But I would say that having that conversation is important, but to gauge the person and the way that they answer the question and their dedication to truly moving on from it, that is something that each person should be incredibly careful of, especially if a person is making major reasons as to why they want to continue, whether it's talking to this ex or fostering a friendship. The opportunity to actually get physically within the presence of this ex is big, in my opinion. So are you ready to go ahead and jump into, second date?
So before we do that, I just wanted to also say from my perspective, like how did I receive that? In my case, when he was sharing about, this information of his past relationship, that was definitely, meaningful to him. For him, it didn't bother me because I could tell that it was just part of his story. It was part of his story of how he came to Christianity. It was part of his story, to a point that there were things that he just did not want to repeat. And it was important, for context on how, he came to that point. So for me, it didn't bother me.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah. It was a major driving factor in there. So going into this second date conversation here, when it came to the end of the first date, I think we both pretty well agreed, like, man, that was a fun date, like, there was a little bit of magic in the air, there were some moments that we hit a little, but that was much more of the lesser than the majority. Majority of the time, we were both thinking like, hey, okay, we're seeing a little something here. So we went, and from my end, I looked at the first date and I said, Okay, so she's answered. For all of you guys, by the way, that have not seen the first part, I am going to link the first part video into the description of this video. So you're going to be able to click on the see more and then go down and you will see part one listed here. And I'm also going to list it in the comments section so you can watch that if you want to watch that before you come into here. So at the end of the day, I'm thinking to myself, so there's a lot of green flags as far as her relationship with her family, her relationship with her father, the way that she's carried herself as far as promiscuity and lack thereof in her case. And also, she contributed to the date herself without me prompting her. In fact, she insisted on it because I had paid for the kayaking. She wanted to pay for the meal. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is all good news right here. Great. And she's fit. One of the big things for me in finding another partner was I need to make sure she's physically fit because at the time that was like one of the main pillars of my life. So I knew I wanted to set up a second date with this girl. Now, at the same time, there was maybe there were one or two more dates that I had after Shally and I's first date. These dates were scheduled beforehand, before I went on the date. And I actually, in that time, I was thinking to myself, man, I would feel bad going on these dates because I found someone that has all these good qualities and something that I think a lot of people do. And Shally kind of described it herself, right? She described how because we have access to dating apps, we feel like we have so many options. We can find ourselves constantly looking to see like, okay, this person's good, but is there someone that is even better? Or is there someone that has a little bit more towards what I'm looking for? And we can end up missing someone that is an amazing qualified person that meets a great majority of our standards here. So as I'm looking at my future dates, I'm thinking to myself, how do I keep myself from falling into the trap of constantly trying to want more, see more, da da da. Another thing that was huge for me, and this plays into my story, as a secular man, something that we indulge in is corn. We indulge in sexual images. And what I learned from that experience is just because you can entertain the thought of other women without cheating doesn't mean you even should. The act of allowing yourself to desire to see more women in and of itself can already create destabilization because already you're entertaining the idea that, it's not so bad if I check out more girls. So I had to fight against myself. And so when I continued on the next dates, because I did go on them, I told Shally about them and Shally encouraged me, hey, you've already made the plan. Might as well see it through. I believe that's correct. Am I correct or no? Mm-hmm. Okay. If I'm wrong, definitely stop me. She encouraged me to go on the dates to see them through because I already made the plans. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do it, but I'm not just going to let them play out. I am going to make a clear stand with them and let them know, hey, I went on a date with this girl. She was awesome. I really liked her. And so I do want to build something seriously with her. So I communicated that to the next girl or two that I went on a date with. And at the same time, I was still in a friendship process with my ex at the time. And I also communicated that to my ex as well. So I was telling all of these people, hey, we can meet up, we can talk, we can be friends, but I do want to be serious about this relationship. And I communicated that to Shally. And when we went on our second date, this one was more, it was also outdoorsy. We met up, we went walking around an area, bug spray. There were trees around. We took a picture of us inside of a tree. It was really cute. It was adorable.
That was the third date.
Was that the third date?
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Second date was a picnic. We had a picnic, and she brought her flags that she does in Puerto Rico. They do these dances with flags, and it's really majestic looking. And we listened to music on a picnic, and it was a much more relaxed, kind of laid back time. It was hot at first, but we got a good spot underneath a tree. I enjoyed it really well. And at that time, that was when Shally, well, I think that kind of gets into another thing. But go ahead, Shally. What were your thoughts after our first date?
Yeah. So after our first date, I can't truly recall if I was still talking to other people all the way up to the first date. But once we had the first date, I just just cut it out. I just wanted to fully invest myself in this relationship. So yeah. So after our first date, I did think that we had such a good time. Are you gonna say something?
Yeah, quick question. So I just communicated to the audience that you knew that I had dates with other girls. Your choice, even though you knew that, was still okay. Even though he has dates with other girls, I'm going to stop any communication with any other guys. How did you make that decision while at the same time encouraging me to go on other dates?
Yeah, because I know how the dating apps work. You're meeting people and you're meeting a lot of people at the same time. Like as I mentioned, when I started to talk to you, I was already talking to two other guys, and that's okay because that's how it works. You just try to meet the most people in a short amount of time. So since you already had those dates planned, it's just fair to you to give yourself the chance to explore these other people that you were already talking to and had already set a time apart. So for me, it didn't bother me. Let's say if you went in a date with this other girl and you think she was a better match for you, then good for you. You found something that you were looking for. But if you still thought that you still saw me as one of the better match, then not good for us too. So for me, I didn't have any fear of, oh, what if he goes to these other dates and something happens. Like no, like I just truly want you to know for sure, like so that way you clear everything in your mind. It's like, oh, what if this person that I was talking to and then I settle for this one. I just wanted you to make sure that you made a decision based on your experiences. In my case, the person that were talking to, as I shared before, no big competition. I really had a good time with you. I mean, we had an 8-hour date. So we both felt really comfortable with each other that I was like, there's nothing else I need to look at this point. If you would have decided that, you wanted to proceed with this other person, I think that I would just have taken a break and that was it. There was no big deal.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that is, I mean, that's honestly really surprising because the culture of dating right now, like a lot of girls would say, if you are on a date with someone and they say they've got dates with other people, they're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to set up dates with other people too, just to kind of do like a even kind of tit for tat type of thing. So that's really unique that you made that choice of like, okay, I'm going to ride with this. And if it doesn't work, then, well, I guess I'm just taking a break. Very, very cool. And so now go ahead. You can continue on your
Yeah,
place.
so the way we set up our second date, when we're talking, and I think we still haven't met in person, Devonte asked me, like, I don't exactly know his words, but he was like, oh, do you dance, or what are your thoughts of dancing? Because at that point, dancing was very important to him. It was one of the ways that he was coping with a lot of things happening in his life. And I remember that when I saw that question, I got very excited because I love to dance. As he was sharing back in Puerto Rico, in my church, I was part of the dance ministry. And in our dance ministry, I would just like dance every Sunday. We would have flags, mantles, streamers, everything. So I shared that with him. I was like, I love to dance. I was part of this dance ministry. I have still all of these instruments. And he was like, oh, that sounds great. I would like to use them sometime. And that's what we were planning, for the second date, we were also thinking something outdoorsy and that promotes like physical activity because again we were trying to challenge each other to be physically active since we were very sedentary. So in the picnic, then the physical activity would have been, the dancing. So we brought, the speakers to put some worship music. I brought my instruments. We brought food. I can't remember exactly what I did, but I know he brought like the is it papaya salad? No, it wasn't
Oh
papaya.
yes, I think it was the Thai sum thumb. And for those that don't know what sum thumb is, I know. Sum thumb is basically a papaya salad type of thing. Yeah. Real quick, I do see that homegirl Blythe is in the chat. What is up, Blythe? Good to see you. Hey, that's one of the OGs from when we got to 1,000 subs. Shout out to you, Blythe. But yeah, we had the papaya salad, the something.
Yeah, so it was just nice. We were outdoors. We were just talking. So in the first date, we said that we did like a mini Bible study, and Devante was the one leading that. So I offered myself to also do like a mini Bible study in the second date. So it was also nice that we were able to get into the Word. We were able to do some worship music, and for me, it was really nice that I found somebody that loves to dance and is willing to dance with me. And we were just using the flags. So it was just great. It was just like a really nice moment.
Yeah, I didn't include the video of us dancing, but I don't know. Do you think maybe it would be a nice little watch for the audience to be able to see the magic that was happening there? I don't know. We'll see. If anybody wants it, maybe I'll make an edit where it has it too.
Yeah, and then at the end of this date is where it happened, something that he has shared multiple times, because in our first date, he was having like a lot of like teary eye, and he was asking because I was a medical doctor, so he was trying to get some medical advice, and he was, what can I do with my eyes being so teary? And I was like, a reason for eyes getting teary, it can actually be that they're dry. So for the next date, I actually bought him some eye drops and some Kleenex for him just to see if that would help him out. And at the end of the second, I was like, I got these things for you, and I got the eye drop. He's very bad, like how do I say, like receiving the eye drop. It was like a whole thing
Oh man, it was
to be able to
awful.
get it to for him to have it done. But it was just something that I just wanted to do for him.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes into another question that you had set up, right?
Well, I think that you already answered.
Yeah, so the question that she had was, how does it go exactly?
Well, the one that I had before that is what you already answered about. I know that you had other dates planned out after our date. How did you navigate allowing yourself to meet more people versus deciding to invest more of your time into this one person? But you already answered that one.
Okay.
And I think that the other question can be on to the third date.
Okay. So we had our second date, and as Shelly describes, it was another really nice date, a great date. It wasn't as long as our first one. It was still a few hours. I forget how, 3 hours, 4 hours or so.
Yeah.
I think that this time we were each more cognizant. I think Shelly especially was more cognizant because she realized I spent all day on our first date. So we actually left at a decent time. It was still daytime by the time that we left. And so we finished up with that date. And at that point, I'm thinking to myself, this girl came out with doggone eye drops and Kleenexes, and not just like some eye drops she was gonna let me use for that date and like a pack. She had like 4 or 5 packs of Kleenex and 2 things of eye drops. What the heck? Who does that? Okay, this is a woman of consideration that this is something rare and special right here. In addition to the godliness and the holiness, in addition to being attractive, in addition to having the mental capacity to be able to have conversation with and Bible study with, she's also just wildly considerate. And I'm like, okay, this is something that is genuinely good. I've made my decision. And so as I was saying in my portion, that's where I started to tell all of the other girls now, like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and just completely nay this. Like, um, I right around that same time, there was like the options of especially a couple of girls that were really kind of just putting it on the line, telling me, hey, I, you know, I want this thing to work. And I'm just like, hey, look, I'm really actually like, I've decided to make her my girlfriend. Like, if this isn't gonna, like, we can continue to be friends, but if you feel like us continuing to talk in some type of capacity is not gonna be doable for you, then out of respect for her, I would want us to limit our conversation and not talk anymore. So upon doing that, we set up our next date.
Oh, but before we talk about the third date,
Okay.
I don't know if you remember, but something happened in between our second and our third date. And that we actually had like a small argument. Did you remember that?
Oh, I think I do, but go ahead and
Do you?
you name it.
So when we were doing the picnic, I brought like, I don't know if it was like quinoa or brown rice, and I got some tofu. And I think I even told him that that's what I was gonna bring, and he was gonna bring the salad. So my lunchbox where I had the food was very small. So I think that he didn't realize that I actually had all that food in the lunchbox. So when we were preparing all the food, he was like, "Oh, I left the tofu in my house," and I look at him and I'm like, "What do you mean you left the tofu in your house?" I was like, "Yeah, I left the tofu in my house. I forgot about it." And I'm like, "But I brought the tofu. Like, you never was intended for you to bring the tofu." So he actually lied. He didn't have any tofu in his house. So for me, I was like, gosh, because for me, I cannot deal, for people that lie. And if he was willing to lie that seamlessly, just put an alert in the back of my head. But I know he didn't have any bad intentions for it. But but still, it was a lie. So when we when we were, back in our houses, I think I brought it out when we were texting. I was like, hey, I just want to bring something up. Is that for me again, if I catch you lying, like, we are done. Are you gonna say something?
Yeah. So real quick, I do want to acknowledge our boy Mumsy Ed is in the chats right now. I think that's Mumsy, right? Let me make sure. Yes, Mumsy. Good to see you, big dog. Okay, what you saying? He said he loves listening to our story. Oh man, hey, you are a real one, Mumsy. We're glad to have you. Thank you for checking in, tuning in, and listening to how we develop this thing, man. Yeah, no, you guys, for real, this girl was just about ready to completely call it quits because I lied about forgetting the tofu. Now, in my defense, I'm gonna sit here and I'm going to explain my thought at the process. My thought at the process was she was supposed to bring the tofu, but she forgot. But okay, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I'm going to take the blame for the tofu and just be like, oh, whoops, I forgot it. That way she didn't feel bad about it. On her end, she's like, nah, you just lied. So that was my thought process behind it. But okay, she didn't like that. So yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't forget the tofu. I had the tofu with me.
Yeah. I didn't see it come out, so I assumed you forgot it, and so I wanted to cover for you so you didn't feel bad. But go ahead, continue. You can continue.
Yeah, so and when we were exchanging text messages, I was like, no, if you lie one more time, like, we are done. Because again, I cannot start build a relationship with somebody that I can't trust. And I could tell that the way it was like a reflex, it was almost like it was like a coping mechanism. Because again, you didn't have bad intention. You were actually trying to protect me in some way. So yeah, so that was, I think, like one of our first like back and forth, because you were trying to do your best to make pretty much excuses on why it wasn't as bad as it looked like, but yeah.
Yeah. And so that was one of our first conflicts that we had. And that was on a lighter note. I think there was some back and forth on it, but that one was a lighter note. And I did end up just being like, okay, yeah, I got you. Next time I'll just let you know, hey, I think you forgot this. There was another thing that became a big issue for both of us, and that was the presence of each of our exes in our lives. This was something that plagued our relationship for really and truly probably the first 6 to 9 months, I would say, all the way from March up to December. I think it was maybe even a little bit after December, January-ish. This issue was Shally was still friends with her ex that she had been friends with for, I think it was 6 years at the time.
8 years.
At that time?
Yeah, because we dated for 5 years. We broke up when I was like 20, and we started dating with 28. So
you
8
started
years.
dating at 16 though, and you dated for 5 years. So you'd have been 21 when you broke up, and then, I mean, maybe 7 years instead of something
like
that.
seven.
But the whole point being, she was still friends with that ex, and I was still friends with my ex. And remember, this is about 1 year removed from my and her breakup. So a point of contention that she had and that I had was for me to her, to know that she was still in communication with the ex. To me, that was a red flag. That was like my first active red flag, was knowing that they still talk and communicate on a regular basis. He still interacts with her family, and like they treated him as a son. Because as a secularist person, I understood that, hey, things didn't work out now, but maybe at some point in the future, people keep that hope alive, that things can happen again. Because at the time, I don't think I understood exactly how you guys ended, just that you ended because you went separate ways as far as your convictions at the time. And so my thought was, I don't know if it's worth. And this was at the same time that I was having, the couple of girls that were like pouring their hearts out to me, saying they really wanted to try and like make things work with me. The one girl that I had crossed the boundaries with on one of the dates before Shally, she was trying to reach out to me. And so I'm like, I was battling in my mind. This girl, being Shally, was so good, had all of these green flags, all of these positives. She just did this thing with the napkins and the eye drops and all that. And at the same time, I've got these girls vying for my attention, and she's still friends with her ex, talking on a regular basis. And I'm telling her I'm not comfortable with that. And at a certain point of some of our disagreement, Shally brought up a point. She made a point to say, like, are you insecure about that idea? And that was like another huge red flag to me, because for me, that came off as highly gaslighting. And I just about pulled the plug. Like, I'm talking, I had to consult my guy friends from church. I had to talk to like different people that I held like in high regard, and be like, man, I like this right here is an issue to me. What do you guys think about this? And I would get some different perspective and whatnot. And even navigating through all that, I said, okay, I'm going to try to explain to her why it is an issue, the way it's an issue, and we're going to try things out, continuing to go forward, and we'll just see how things progress from that. I don't know if you have a piece that you want to speak to this concept here.
Yeah, so just for context, as I mentioned, I dated this person like for 5 years. And then, we remained friends after that because it wasn't like we ended up in bad terms. It's just that I was a Christian, he was not a Christian. It was just not working out. So that's when we decided, it's best if we just like leave it like that. And then obviously that first year is rough. There's still a lot of emotions there. But then we were able to just become friends to the point that we kept being friends 7, 8 years. So at this point, I was, how do I say it? At this point, it was more time that I was being friends with him 7 to 8 years than the 5 years that we were actually dating. So at this time, he's like my best friend. Like he's the person that knows me the most. I'm the person that I know him the most. As Devante said, he's very close to my family as well. Like me living here in Florida, he will still go and visit my family because he just I think a time frame of 8 and 5, like 12, 13 years of he being involved in my life. I just didn't see it as nothing wrong because again, he was like my best friend. We knew that we were able to have this close relationship because we were both single. But we knew that once we entered our relationship needed to change as well. So even though I was speaking to him in how do you say, frequently, I knew that once I started dating, I was not going to be speaking with him as frequent as I was doing before. The challenge was that before I met Devante, we had already set a time that he was actually going to visit me in Florida. And it was the first time that he was going to visit me in Florida for my birthday.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had already that plan way before I met Devante. So when in our third date that we're going to talk a little bit more about that, that's when, I had to let him know, hey, just so that you're aware, like my ex is going to come visit me. And this is something that I had planned way before, I met you. And, he's my friend. Like at this point, I don't see him as anything more than my friend. And it's not like this hope of something, happening because again, he was still not a Christian. So the issue was still there. And they were like not that romantic emotions. Like I only had, a thought of him as friend.
Yeah, and you're right. It was the third date. I think it was after the third date, I think. So let's go ahead and get into the third date portion here because the timeline on that is majorly important. So we had decided, we had done a couple dates and, I knew on my end what some of the things I was dealing with were. So I was, working those things out and I decided, hey, I want to set up a third date because I just told all these girls, what was what. So let me go ahead and pull the trigger. I had learned that if I don't pull the trigger, if I wait too long, if I am flimsy about my intentions, things can be misunderstood and opportunity can be created for distractions to creep into place. So I had said in my mind I was going to let Shelly know what my intentions were with her. And then regardless of her response, it wasn't my job to get her to say yes. It was my job just to let her know clearly where I stood so that she understood the level of seriousness I had about it. So I had determined I was going to ask her on the third date, hey, I've decided that I really like you. I like XYZ about you. And my intention is for you to be my girlfriend. And I want to walk forward with that as the what we are exactly. So we went on the date. It was this Indian spot. Really good food. I think we both really enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, but it wasn't Indian.
It was kind of Indian.
It was not Indian.
It was Middle Eastern of some sort. And Ethiopian?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Ethiopian. I guess that's more African. So we went to this Ethiopian restaurant and delicious as all can be, man. Fully recommended. Don't have a name for you. Don't ask me. And we go into her car and we're talking back and forth. And I told her basically what I just told you guys, that, hey, this is my decision. I've decided, that I want you to be my girlfriend. I really like you. And her response, hearing that, she told me, go ahead.
Well, I don't remember. I don't remember what were my exact words. I know that you had all these thing, planned out. We were supposed to go to the house. What's the name? The wheel. The eye.
So yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
It was raining.
We were not actually supposed to go to this Ethiopian
No,
restaurant.
we were because
Oh, that was part of it. Yes.
yeah, the way Devante set up this date, it was like a surprise date. So I didn't know where I was going. He just sent me like this pin location. So his plan was to first go to the Ethiopian restaurant, and then we were gonna move to this other place,
Yes.
the eye something.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's where you were planning on doing the big,
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
But it was raining. It was pouring, raining, and it was close.
Like it seemed like God was like, "Don't do it, don't do it." Dun, 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 dun. That's funny. I did forget about that. Yeah, the rain was crazy, and we actually ended up not being able to do it at all because they shut it down while it's raining. So once the rain cleared up, we did eventually try and do it, but it was too late, and like we just had to give up on it. But continue. Go ahead.
So when he's saying these things to me, like he would like me to be his girlfriend, I was like, I like you, but I think it's just too soon. Like I barely know you. we just had these like 3 dates now. So I just needed more time because in my mind, once I commit myself, to date somebody, it's because I date to marry. So I want to make sure that if we are officially in a relationship, that is because I see myself marrying you. And keep in mind that it was still pretty recent, this thing of, you lying to me. And I was like, gosh, is he going to keep doing that? I need more time to understand, his behavior a little bit more. So I just told him that. I was like, I like you because I did. At that time, I enjoy spending time with you. So I did mention, I like you, but I just need more time to be able to make this decision.
Yeah. And there were a lot of many important things that happened in there. I think if you had just said, I'm not really sure right now, I think I would have taken that and been like, okay, like, oh, so this is one-sided. Cool. Well, I guess I'll give this like a week or two. And if I don't see a change, then I'm just going to take that for like, oh, she's just not that interested. Because one thing that I had become dead set on was if I'm going to be with somebody, I need to be someone that is excited to be with me, not someone that has this like hesitancy energy. And so it was very important that she had told me, I do like you, but I just feel like it's really quick here. Because like I said, if I didn't receive anything, then I would have been, oh, she's not feeling it enough. So it is like, this isn't what I thought it was. And I would have moved on. So she did exactly what she should have done as far as showing interest, but also saying, hey, yes, but not yet. And that was really good. So now we go to post third date.
Well, I mean, still in the third date, I want to highlight your response to it. And I think it was like a very good response. It was almost like, oh, you need to know me better. I have this amazing resource called 101 questions to ask before getting engaged. I think it was, right? Before getting married.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he already had it in his phone. So he just literally copy and paste all the questions, the 101 questions. And then we made a plan to like every day ask like every 2 or 3 questions. So, I felt like he listened. He listened to what I said, that I just needed to know him more. And because we were both in the same page, we were both intentional of dating to marry. So he had already this research. He passed it to me. And for me, that was just like a great response. Like, you listened, you were already prepared. You had this, under your sleeve. And I feel like, I want to do this too. I want to answer these 101 questions.
Hey, y'all, give it up for your boy, man. I completely forgot that I had the 101 questions on the third date.
Yeah.
And that was my response. Holy smokes. Like, And you're right. That was a smooth move. What?
Yeah, and another highlight that we didn't mention also, because something that I love about Devante is just he communicates very well. And that's something that for me was very important, that I wanted to have somebody that was mature and that was able to communicate. And I remember that in our second date, he actually brought the five love languages. So as recent as, in our second date, he was already trying to see how he could communicate better with me in this love, language. So I thought that that was also very good. And he was carrying. You had the book, right? You have the
Yeah.
five love languages
Had the
book.
book.
So very resourceful guy here.
Yeah, because that was at the time period where I had done a lot of work to figure out what happened with the past relationship, and some of the resources I learned about were, hey, there's this thing called love languages. There's this book about understanding your own past. There's this book about how to figure out if you and this person are good for each other. From a podcast. And so I looked it up and I got the little cheat sheet and all the questions were posted on Google. So I copied it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to give this to Shally and we're going to go through this and we're going to see if we have good compatibility on these questions. Dang, girl, I completely forgot about that. Wow. Yeah. So I don't know if you had any more to add to our post third date before.
No, I think that when we were finishing up the exchange that we were having about me asking for more time and you sharing the book, that's when we had the conversation of, my ex coming to visit. And so I don't know if you wanted to add anything else about that moment, because I think that the challenge was that I already had the plan before I met him and we were still not something technically.
Yeah.
So and that's when you started to have, the conversation with your guys to see how to navigate that.
Yeah. It was it while we were still in the car after the 101 questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was while we were still in the oh, careful with your hair, it's touching the mic. While we were still in the car, Shally drops for me, it was the bombshell. That was the biggest challenge that I had. Like even to this day, I think no, I'm lying. But it was certainly like the biggest challenge that I didn't know what to do, what about, and it was that she had the plans for her ex to come and to stay with her in her apartment, and at this time, hearing that, like in my mind, nope. I have the crickets going on, and then it's just like, I'm just all of that, you guys. And I'm like, ain't no way she's trying to play me like a fool. Ain't no way she's sitting here talking to me. We're building this thing up, but she's got her ex coming to stay in her apartment. She must think I'm stupid. And so after thinking about that and like trying to figure out what I also learned from previous experiences, from my previous relationship, as well as from going to church, is my duty is not to control what another person does. It is to state my boundary and allow that person to operate either within it or outside of it. And based off of their choice of how they respect the boundary, that then informs me on how I continue with them. And so at a certain point, I communicated to Shally, hey, I understand that, like, this is what you have going on, but that is not something that I'm okay with at all. Like, that is completely like it's one thing to like stay in communication. Okay, that's a little It's one thing to talk regularly, a little bit more, but now not only coming to the same state, not only coming to town to visit, but to stay in the apartment, that is some shenanigans if I ever heard it. And I said, I don't think I forget exactly how I said it, but I know I said something to the effect of like, I am not going to be okay whatsoever with your ex staying with you in your apartment. Like, I don't trust that at all. And there was a lot of vying between us back and forth because in Puerto Rico, their culture is that they treat everyone as family. And so, hey, someone's coming into town. Oh, come on over. You're like cousin. Come on over. You're like brother. Come on over. You're like uncle. Come on over. You're like aunt. And that's what you do. You open up your home, you open up your fridge, you open up your church doors to them, and you invite them in as family, especially if there's people that you've known just for years over years. But obviously in American culture, completely different. The boundaries that we have with exes are once you break up, if you continue to be friends, it's like this cordial friendship, but it's from a distance. And when it comes to being involved with family, are there people that still have that where the exes are involved with family? Yes, but I mean, a lot of the times you see that go the wrong direction when it comes to a new person coming in to establish a new relationship. And so American culture, we're very removed from our exes in that way. And if there is going to be a continuing friendship, it is not going to be, oh yeah, you can come and stay in my apartment. And so, man, the source of that tension was strong. I don't know if you want to contribute anything at this point to what I'm describing.
Yeah, because as he was saying, like culturally, if you're coming, to town from another place and you need some place to stay, sure, you can stay my apartment. Like we won't be sleeping in the same room. Like you're gonna likely have to sleep in the couch on the air mattress. But my doors are open. And in my case, like I didn't have a lot of like temptation because again, I didn't see him romantically anymore. We were friends like longer than we were dating. And we never had like sexual intimacy because, I always wanted to save myself for marriage. So I didn't have also that temptation. So in my mind, it was like, this is okay as long as we keep our boundaries. But keep in mind that I made this decision way before I started dating Devante. So I knew that now that I'm dating someone, I might have needed to make some changes. Maybe not so much that I was not gonna see him, but I was open to hear him out and see how I could also respect him in from this perspective.
Yeah. So I think I had made it very clear that, like, listen, if he comes, if he stays the night, like, that is my answer. And Shally, she wasn't happy with me about it because on her end, she's like, what the heck? We're not even dating right now. This is where she kind of insinuated, like, do you have an insecurity? Like, and all that. And that's where I'm just like, what the heck am I doing with this right now? And that's where I started talking to my guy friends and getting their perspectives. And to be honest, I went and I was like, I made a decision that was counter to the advice because anybody that I had told this to was like, dude, that's a hard boundary. No, like, no way. However, at a certain point, Shally did communicate to me, hey, he has made the decision that he's not going to come to my apartment. And because they had talked and she had told him about the source of tension that we had, and he made the offer, hey, instead of coming and staying at your place, I'll go stay with my family. And so he actually ended up helping that situation to be able to smooth over. So I will give, a round of applause to man for not even, for like making Shally make the choice, but for him deciding to be the bigger man in that. So I have respect for him in that case. But it was something that even with that source of tension dissipating a bit, it was something that I looked at as, well, she didn't choose that. He chose it. And now she's just dealing with his choice in response to my choice. So that was another source of tension that I had. I don't know if you wanted to contribute anything right now.
Yeah. So you actually told me that you spoke to one of your guys, and you actually told me that they pretty much told you that since we were not dating like officially, then you couldn't almost like force me not to have him in my apartment just because we were not officially dating. And you told me that even though it would still make you feel super uncomfortable. So that was like the last thing that you told me, that I recognize that we're still not a thing, so you're free to do whatever you want to do, but this is just, it's still making me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. One of my guys definitely told me that. And when he told me that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. I can't put anything on her because I don't have that relationship status to be able to say what you can and can't do. And that's where it goes back to, it was just at the place where I state what I'm comfortable with. I don't have any power over you. If you choose to do something that you know I'm uncomfortable with, that tells me how you treat what I communicate to you. So I had already determined what I was going to do based off of what she did. And, we proceeded from there. So the event came, he came in, and Shally and I talked throughout the time of his visit, and they hung out, twice or so? What was it?
Yeah, what we ended up doing, we put like, I don't want to call it like boundary, because it's not a boundary, but we made an agreement. An agreement that, whenever I was with him, I was gonna let him know, and I would let him know. I don't know if it was like what I was doing or where was I, so that way it didn't feel like I was alone with him and I was just like lost. I think that's one of the agreements, just to so that way he could have like peace of mind. I was like, sure, like, because again, I have nothing to hide. So yeah, we met different times because he was here. I would just like pick him up in his family's house and we will hang, and yeah, just I can't remember how many times we met, but
Yeah. And so that concluded. And by the end of it, Shally was still sad time. Um, and that was something that we had to navigate for a little bit. And then we did. And then our relationship just continued from there. And as our relationship continued, we kind of moved into the next place of where things, as far as like me officially becoming your boyfriend. That was only so the date where she had said, not right now, I still got to get to know you. One night she invited me over.
wait, fourth date. Was it had the fourth date?
Fourth date? That's what you want to call it?
No, because we had a fourth date, the one that you were describing earlier, that we were doing the trail.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Yeah, because
yes.
again, we were in this mode of getting to know each other. So every night or every day, we would answer maybe 1 to 3 questions, depending on how deep were the questions. And this book is amazing because it covers literally everything. It covers from our childhood, our relationship with our parents, specifically relationship with your mother, with your father. It talk about finances. It talk about topics of sexuality, of porn, of pretty much everything in the spectrum. Like this was touching on those topics. So we were getting into these very personal, deep questions, like 1 to 3 questions at a day. So I suggested that for our fourth date, we can go on a trail, because walking, we could still keep doing, questions as we walk. That way we could, continue to get to know each other even more. And it's what we did. We went to this trail and we walked, I don't know for how long, maybe 1 to 2 hours. And yeah, so that was the fourth date.
Yeah, that's right. And that was what I was describing before that I thought was the second date. And by the end of the fourth date, I think we had, I don't think we talked about it there. I think we were texting and you had mentioned that there was this like shooting stars that were supposed to come at nighttime. So, and this fourth date was about a week after our third date. And the shooting
Oh, and
stars,
we had a half date also. I don't know if it was in the third date when I went to see your friend sing. When was that? That you wanted to show me off. Those were your words.
my friends sing.
Yeah, that Edgar was there, your church people was there.
Karaoke?
No, it wasn't karaoke. He was in a rock band. That everybody was dressed in black and I was wearing like a pink neon
That's
dress.
right. That we did have a half date. Yes. So me and some of my church peoples that used to live here, he had a performance and he had invited all of us church people, and some of us did come. I invited Shally to it. She showed up, said hi to some people. We walked around a little bit, talked. I thanked her for coming out. So that was like a little half date after our third date. And then we had our fourth date. And yeah, I did say I want to show you off to my peoples. And then we had our fourth date, and all of that happened with the book and the questions and whatnot. And then she was telling me about the shooting stars. Oh, no, did I tell you about the shooting stars?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. But we had said, hey, it would be cool to see these together. And so the intention was I was going to go to her place. We were going to watch the shooting stars from her back patio because she had like an open view. And we were going to just watch it. And then I was going to drive home. She's like, you really want to drive at nighttime to come see me and then drive back home? I was like, yeah, man, why not? So I go over and it gets to be that time where the shooting stars should come. Shooting stars never came. We're sitting there, we're watching, we're waiting. And as we're sitting there, I look over at her and I'm like, man. She's like, what? I'm like, I really want to kiss you right now. And then she's like, oh, yeah?
And we had a rule. I told him that we were not going to kiss until we were officially dating. So I was like, no, you have to be my boyfriend to kiss me.
And so...
And keep in mind that this date, it was like 1 week in between the third date because we were pretty much seeing each other like every Saturday. So it has only been like 1 week since, I told him that I needed more time.
And so I looked at her and I went in for the kiss and she accepted. And I was like, oh, snap. And she pulls back and she goes, well, I guess you're my boyfriend now.
Yeah, it was part of the rule.
So crazy enough as it is, this is one area where we did break some of the boundaries that we had set in there, because one of the boundaries, and I think that what happened was as we dated more, we got looser on some of the boundaries, like, oh, no sitting next to each other. We were done with that boundary by the end of the third date, and we were sitting next to each other alone by the fourth date.
Yeah, and if I can add, when I said, oh, yeah, you can come over, when I texted, I was like, what am I doing? I barely know this person. How am I going to invite him to my apartment? Like, this is so weird. But it almost felt like natural just because we were being so intentional and I was, getting to know him in so many like deep levels, and we were doing this very personal questions. I truly felt comfortable with him and I really thought that I knew him, but he was still a stranger and I'm still, like a woman living by myself. And I'm like, and I remember that he was asking me for my address and I took forever to reply because I was not sure if I wanted to give him my address. And what I did, I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to run a background check. And that's what I did. I went online. I was like, this is like public. And so I'm just going to run a background check. And I don't know how to do it. So I just started researching. And he was still waiting for, my reply of where do you live? And I'm like, I'm just like doing this background check. And the site that I used, he put the background check of everybody that was related to him. So his mom, his stepdad, even I think his ex was in there. So like just reading all these documents, just making sure that, he wasn't somebody crazy. And I was just praying about it. I'm like, God, like, am I insane? Like, what am I doing? And of course, I knew that if I asked somebody else for advice, they were going to say, what are you doing? Like, no, just like, no. And I was like, gosh, okay. But I read all the background check and he seemed to be, like a normal person, no red flags, a clean record. And I was like, okay, I think it should be okay. And even though we were going to be on our by ourselves in my apartment, we still made it a point that we were going to be outside. So we were not going to be inside, like in the couch or inside in the, inside of the apartment closed doors. Like as he said, I had like an in patio, like it's like a screen area outside. So we said, okay, when he comes, we're just going to hang in this like open space where other people, it's not public, but other people can like see us. And that way we are not tempted to anything. And they can also see what was going on. But yeah, I had all that, things. And I think that he even texted me like, it's okay if you change your mind, if you don't want me to come, because I took so long doing my research. But at the end, I did share my address and, here we are.
Yeah, this girl took some chances because like literally she had no family here. All her family was in Puerto Rico. She had a friend that stayed nearby and some church people. But besides that, she didn't have anybody to come save her. So the fact that she took that chance, if I was a woman, not going to happen. Those shooting stars can wait.
I don't know. Like emotions can, sometimes play like a bigger role that we would want to.
Yeah. So against all better judgment, she did give me everything I needed to come over. And that's what happened. And that was the night that we officially became boyfriend and girlfriend. And there was a part of me that thought like, man, it was only a week ago that she was like, I'm not too sure, da-da-da-da-da. So I did feel a bit bad that like, man, I came over and I just made the move of doing the kiss. And
I was not making it easy on you. Like I wanted you to kiss me, so it's not all on you.
And see, that's the part that I'm like, so you asked some questions. I got a question now.
Mm-hmm.
When did you make the switch from I still need to get to know you to okay, I'm comfortable with you coming over, being alone with you at night and letting you kiss me, and now officially being your girlfriend? How did that change happen in that 1 week?
I think I just had all the information that I needed. Both of us, being Christian. And I think that at this time, we were praying every night together too. So we already had, God in our relationship. We were praying together every night and doing these questions. I think I had all the information that I needed to then bring this relationship to the next level. And eventually you were going to know where I live if we start dating, if I was already at that point. So that's something. And then, I think that the physical attraction was also growing in me. So when we had that fourth date and you had your arms showing, and I was like, oh, this guy just keeps getting more attractive by the day. Like, what am I going to do? So when we had that encounter, I was like, I think I'm ready at this point. But it was because, again, you gave me what I needed.
Okay. Makes sense. So yeah, we're here. We're locked in as boyfriend, girlfriend. And I still think this was before the visit happened, right? With the ex?
Yeah, because he came in June time for around my birthday. and we made it official in May 31st.
Yeah, and I think I think that the solution came after we got together officially, right? As far as like staying with family instead of staying at your apartment and all that.
Yeah, so in that fourth date was when I show with you, because I was talking about it with him, and he was the one that offered, I don't want to cause like any issues. And he said, I'll just stay with my family if that will make, things better. And I was like, okay, then that works too. And I remember that in our first date, we were talking about it, and you were the one that said, I can't remember what were your words, but if truly nothing was gonna happen, then he would have offered to stay in another planet. I was like, that's exactly what he did. I just haven't shared with you, and you were, oh, okay, I'll give that to him. And yeah, so at that time, in that 4th days, when I told you that he was gonna stay with this other, with his family, and then after we became official, that's when we put like the rules or agreement on how I was gonna be spending my time, with him, and letting you know about, our whereabouts and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And that is important because to know, like, I think you had stated that we had agreed on rules, but we hadn't told the audience yet that we were official. So it might have sounded a little crazy that this guy that you're still unsure of, you're now making rules with. Yes, I was her boyfriend at this point, and as her boyfriend, we made rules agreeing on the circumstances of her spending time with the ex, how that would happen, and the proper environments and whatnot. So the summertime comes, and we're developing that. Things are kind of coming along, and there's not really too much conflict that happens in the summertime. The visit comes and goes. The birthday occurs. Shally's birthday happens as well. I celebrated the first birthday with Shally that we've ever celebrated together.
Yeah, like 2 weeks into us dating, I was just pretty much introducing him to all of my closest people here. Like, yeah, he's my boyfriend. I had there my friends.
Well, just to clarify, dating isn't like on the second date. Dating as in the second week of being her boyfriend.
Yes.
Just for clarification.
Yeah.
Because you say dating, some people think like, wait, since the second date, So, but yeah, as her boyfriend. So that would have been 2 weeks after May 31st, which would have been like mid-June, early mid-June, like June 13-ish. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just like introducing everybody to this like new person in my life. So
Yeah, and so we did that. I think at a certain point I had you over. You met some of my family in the summertime. There were some church events that happened, and Shally joined for those things. There were some friend birthday events that happened. I got into a play that I did over the summertime. Shally showed up for, was it all of the shows you showed up for?
no, only one.
Only one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I had different groups of people. I had one group that showed up for the first night, and then a second group that showed up for the second night. And the second group was some of my church people. Shally was there. And yeah, that was a really cool thing that she got to see me do. And eventually, once we got to be about 3 months in, after going through all of these different struggles, the issue with the exes, us like little by little detaching more and more from our exes.
Yeah, but there was just a lot going from your end. But I don't know, for how long have we been already going? I don't know if this will be a good time to stop because there's something that it will be worth to go into detail.
Yeah, here, let me do a good check real quick. Hey, the boy Edgar's in. He said at the Geek Easy. The Geek Easy. No. Not at the Geek Easy. The play that we did.
No, he's talking about where I went to see your friend singing the rock band.
Oh, no, I don't think that was the Geek Easy either. I think the Geek Easy was Edgar. That was something that me and you did.
Are you sure?
And it was a karaoke spot. Yeah. I don't think that's the same thing, Edgar.
I think it's the same place. That's the place where we did the karaoke.
I think you're both wrong.
I think it's the same place.
Oh, no. Yeah, the place that we did the karaoke was the Geek Easy, but that's not where my friend played.
I think it was. But it's okay. We can double
Yeah,
check
yeah.
later.
Oh, wait. No. You're right. The Geek Easy, my friend did play there as well. There were 2 shows that my friend did. Okay. That's
so
what happened.
Edgar and I, we were right.
You're right. There is another thing that happens. And as far as time-wise, I'm trying to see. Shally, keep the audience entertained.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I don't know how to entertain.
Okay, so when did we start?
I think 5:50.
5:50. So we've been going for like an hour. We've been going for like an hour and 5 minutes. What is the next thing that you're thinking of getting into?
Well, I think that we can stop now because then we can talk about our ups and downs leading to the proposal.
Okay.
Because that's going to take some time.
She's right. So once we got past that initial like 3 days of like 3 months of being in the relationship, I made a certain decision, and also our relationship was starting to be tested in certain ways that were like significant ways. Like certain things were reoccurring. It gets into behavioral elements that each of us had that we needed to work out. And that is a whole nother long conversation. But we're going to end on this note. We're dating now. We're officially boyfriend and girlfriend after 4 total dates. So on this episode, we covered 3 dates. We covered exes being involved and how we navigated that, a visit issue. We covered how we resolved the issue, and getting into being together for 2 weeks leading into our first few months. And now on the next episode, we're going to cover some issues that we ran into as our relationship was progressing more, because we were moving at a rapid pace with so much intentionality. And yeah, so you guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. Shally, my beautiful wife, thank you for coming on and joining me.
My pleasure.
And thank you, everybody that came on. Everybody from Blythe to Mumsy Ed to Potato, a.k.a. Edgar. Thank all of you guys for joining in and just helping to make this more fun. You guys, we're going to be going now. We got to get dinner started, get ready for the week. I've got another show going on tomorrow, Monday, so make sure to tune in for that. We're keeping steady with 30 days of streaming in a row, no days missed. Make sure to tune in. Make sure to watch the replays. Support the effort. Man, I am looking to crush it with you guys driving the ship, okay? So for now, I'm going to bid you guys adieu. Thank you again for your time, and I will catch you guys next time on the Inspired Challenge podcast. Take care.
Bye.
And oh man, these weird things coming up. End. Okay, that ended safely. And